even an inferior conjunction. I love a Cazimi. It's like 99% of why I'm an astrologer is because Cazimi's brought me here, and Mercury Cazimi specifically. So we have Mercury and the sun at 26° 35' of Leo. And what do you guys think about this?
Yes, it's like it's still so close to that Uranus. It's like it's really carrying that energy, like in the throne room with the sun, almost like a meeting that they put their heads together. Mercury's not visible, but he gets his new instructions, he gets his downloads, he gets his new information. And we don't know what it's going to be or what it's going to mean for us until he becomes visible again in the sky. And that's when events start occurring for us that we can then relate to what that Cazimi moment meant. But yes, it's just really nice just to connect in that time on that day, do something to just mark it and be aware of the time that it's happening and just really feel into that energy.
Well, and the moon is full later that same day, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's another day. We've got quite a few that day. Got Venus square Jupiter coming up as well.
There's that one. Let's look at the full moon chart because this is going to be later in the same day. So that Cazimi would have happened, but the fullness of the moon will be growing at the Cazimi moment, but then we have the fullness later on that night. I'll move our pictures so that we can see the beautiful owl. Aquarius 3.
The owl's all packed, ready to go into the unknown. It's like, but it's having doubts. Does it leave? Should it stay? Should it go? Will it be better? You know, and it's that, it feels eighth housey, like that karmic debts, that karmic entanglement. You know, is it better to stay where it is or to leave? You know, it's packed, it's ready to go, and then it flies. Own that moment of flight and everything's okay. But those thoughts and those doubts that keep you or could keep you bound almost before you take flight, before you leave, just catching that moment, you know, even his little face, it's like, oh, can I do this?
Well, and even, I mean, Aquarius can't see Pisces through traditional sight, but, you know, having the ruler of that moon, Saturn, be retrograde, it's like even more of kind of a looking back is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, really does. And because we've got the sun square Uranus at the same time, Venus opposite Saturn, you know, there's so much else going on in that chart. It's like no wonder poor owl's confused.
Well, and the full moon, like just illuminating all of that's going on. So I skipped ahead because it's all happening on the same day. So I won't look at this one exactly, but so we can talk about that here. You know, the full moon is when the moon is able to reflect the maximum amount of light of the sun. And so what else is it illuminating in your life? There's a lot of kind of big things going on. That Venus opposite Saturn, the Uranus square. I mean, just that alone, I mean, Pluto is creeping back, you know, at the very, very, very last bit of Aquarius before it goes into Capricorn. I mean, it's like there's so many things like on precipices. And I think just the full moon will just shine light on a lot of areas of life for everybody.
Tangled Thoughts feels really appropriate for this. It's just like, it feels like that you're standing on the edge of the cliff and you can't decide if you want to, you know, you want to make the leap. Even if you've got a parachute on, you're just like, you know, the fear is maybe holding you back just a little bit, but you're not gonna know if that chute's gonna open unless you actually leave.
Yeah.
And it is just that reminder of like how your thoughts can stop you. And it's okay, you know, just to let them be and still do the thing. You know, that saying of feel the fear and do it anyway, just to accept that they're there, but still fly. You know, still, owls are meant to fly. You know, they're not meant to be on the ground packing.
Although he looks super cute with that little knapsack.
He does. He does. With the bound, I've got Kira calls it bonds. So it's the bonds that tie you. So, you know, if you think of somebody like leaving, maybe he's leaving his family, you know, and that's hard. If you go somewhere, it's not so bad once you get there and you start living your new life. But when that moment when you've got to leave, that's hard. Austin calls it the knot. And obviously the wild way is tangled thoughts. And the tarot card is the 7 of swords.
My mother's side of the family are very wonderfully corny. And whenever the siblings would gather, they would always sing the song right before they would break away to leave. And the song is called "Blessed Be the Tie That Binds." And it's like a hymn, but I love the idea of like, we're every time they were together, they always kind of like, we're acknowledging that we're glad that we are bound together, even though they were looking at it from through a Christian lens and a Christian hymn. I just think it's really beautiful to kind of honor that which bounds you, because being bound is what tethers us to earth. And so if you have if this full moon brings up issues, finding that that nostalgia and that like, well, at least I have them to love, even if they're on my last nerves today. Like, blessed be that tie that binds me to this person, or on the other end of like, I'm so thankful that I'm bound to this story so that I can be helpful in this situation. I'm so thankful that I'm bound karmically to these people because they are helping me. Maybe it's just the illumination comes from, Saturnine moons have like this heaviness to them, but there's so much beauty in recognizing, like, is the heaviness coming from just being anchored to other people in very true, authentic ways. So the karmic entanglements aren't always a bad thing,
No, and Aquarius is the sign of the outsider and air, so it's the thoughts, and it is that message of not to let your thoughts like help you and guide you forward and not be the thing that stops you. So your way as a rebel or an outsider is going to be different from those people that you're bound to, and they may not understand, and that's okay as well. You don't have to, you're not living your life for them. So it's recognizing where they stop and you start.
There's also things that catch my eye. I always look for antitia and contra antitia. It's just, I just want to root it out. And it's always noticeable to me when there's not one that's anywhere close. So it's like, there's nothing under the surface. Everything is going to be kind of apparent. There's no like secret backroom deals in your chart or in the chart of the sky going on. It's going to be like really upfront and on the level. And it may be a lot, but at least like, I would just trust what you see and what you're thinking, and not like invite paranoia in, because Neptune at that 29th degree, I feel like will increase paranoia. It's retrograde, but the idea of not really sure what layer of the dream of the liminal space can I trust. I feel like this full moon is going to be like, everything is on the table, illuminated. It's a lot to deal with, but the fact that there's no kind of secret connections or secret oppositions, it's just like, trust the information you're given. And also then tap into the reality of your own intuition. I don't know, it just catches my eye when there's never an antitia or contra antitia even close. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah. And also like with the Sun Uranus happening, because that's, I know like modern astrologers like to point out the T-squares. That's like the big type of energy. I mean, like the challenges that can come, but Uranus brings those insights and breakthroughs. So it's offering that, and the sun is illuminating it. The moon is like our translator, so she brings things to earth for us. So it's like a way to like manifest that all in some way, although it might not necessarily be easy with that T-square energy.
I always imagine T-squares as that Spider-Man meme with the 3 Spider-Mans all pointing at each other. Like, who's going to fight first?
Yeah. Nobody's going to move. Just freeze that moment in time.
What's the next one? So the next one is Saturn. Saturn's going to get into the mix, squaring Jupiter. So we have another square in mutable signs. Again, I feel like they're all these stories are going to kind of make sense maybe in September, maybe October, of all the stuff, all the juggling that we're going to be doing. And the squares are just these chances of like, okay, now I have to deal with this. All right, the full moon happened. Now I've got also this to go on. And there's so many moving parts to this machine or clock or whatever analogy I was trying to make the other time, that, we're just going to have to like, there's a lot to carry, and there's not going to be a lot of time to readjust to each individual moment, you're going to just have a lot going on all at once. I feel like that in itself will just be why it feels exhausting. So it'll be bam, bam, bam. August 19th is just a busy day. And the full moon is like shining its big silver light on all of it. So Saturn square Jupiter, never any fun, but you know, it's not the end of the world. Famous last words, watch this day be the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's hope
I've had
not.
an opportunity to learn and reset boundaries through communications and dreams, because we've got the Gemini there. So that's like a new energy that we're experiencing with Jupiter there. So we've got used to Saturn in Pisces now, but this is the first time Jupiter and Saturn have met with that Gemini kind of. We've had the Taurus energy, but now it's coming through with the communication energy. So it's speaking to us. So that might like be a bit more tangible, maybe, even though Venus is the tangible, practical sign. I don't know. Somehow it just feels more accessible. So I'm bringing the boundaries, but I've written like archetypes as well, like gods and goddesses of justice and wisdom, like Mart for Egypt and Sophia in Greece. It's like archetypes, but I can't think of modern day one that represent wisdom. But maybe, you know, if we think of like the political figures, like maybe in the past, we were talking about the Arc of Justice earlier today. No, the names escape me that first talked about it, but the Arc of Justice moving slowly, but it's that kind of sense because Saturn moves slowly.
Yeah.
The Arc of Justice is Jupiter. So this feels like, okay, this is maybe in the mundane world, you know, things moving to where they need to be, but it's almost imperceptible because it's slow. But
well, if you think of just Jupiter as the as law, and it's, you know, Jupiter is a sign that, or Jupiter is a planet that gathers towards it and has to organize. I think Jupiter in Gemini is a great organizer. And if it's like there's a sense of justice and there has to be order, it cannot be chaos, because we need to have some sort of stasis. If Saturn is the prison, then Jupiter is the courtroom, right? They're connected to each other. And because Saturn moves slowly, I feel like that this is the moment that it becomes exact. But applying aspects have a bit more palpability than the exact aspect. It's like, this is when it's like finished, and then they flow forth from each other. But the week prior to this, I feel like there will be hints of things kind of coming up that maybe will finally find form on this day, maybe even the day before. I mean, if you look at the Mars-Uranus conjunction, it became exact, but 2 days before there was something very Mars-Uranus. You know, it's like we saw it beforehand. So even if something big doesn't happen this day with that exact square, I feel like there will be something thematic between the Pisces Gemini houses, thematic of Saturn and Jupiter, that are that tension of them coming into that square together. And maybe it doesn't happen Monday, maybe it happens on Sunday or even Saturday or even Friday. You know, just there's a lot of stuff applying up until this moment. This happens to just be kind of that final one, because so Venus is past Saturn at that point. The sun is a little past Uranus. Yeah. So it's like things are already starting to kind of move. I just feel like the tension of the week prior, so August 12th through 19th, might feel a lot of pressure because all these aspects are going to be applying in those squares.
And also with Saturn retrograde there, that it could be going back to things that Saturn's already covered and addressing it. Also the mutable nature. I had thoughts there, but they're escaping me.
Chani, do you have any?
Yeah, I just keep getting this imagery of, like, you know, when you're trying to set up like a domino maze or something, and you're setting up each domino and you keep bumping the last one. You don't even get to the point where you get to knock it down and have like your big full finale. You keep knocking them down as you're setting them up. And it just feels like they may not be big challenges, but small ones. And they seem to maybe not be connected, but somehow they end up folding into each other.
Hmm.
It's interesting when the Cazimi moment is at 27 degrees, right? At that same time, it's Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus all at 17, if I remember correctly, but so is the moon. And I know there's some aversions there, but it just feels 17 degrees feels very crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and then having Saturn still in Mercury's Decan is just very pensive to me, very, very pensive.
Yeah, and Mercury is retrograde. Mercury can't see, so it's like, you know, good luck. Good luck, Saturn. You've got this. Just whatever's in your knapsack. That's like the thing of the fool card in tarot. It's like he's got everything he needs in his knapsack. You don't know what it's in there, but somehow that will come in handy.